thanks for joining me tonight. I am Hawkeye, and this is Hawkeye's House of Horrors. and well, I decided to do something. Um, so far on my channel, I've been doing horror films or science fiction or fantasy. Just kind of going through uh, films that I think are definitely recommended by me for you to see. And then in some cases, doing sequels as well to those films. But I haven't done any TV shows yet. Well, Stranger Things on Netflix has reached its final season. That's season five. And I watched it and I let it digest for quite a while here. I've seen other reviews from people about um, really that season in particular. It was sort of lukewarm response, I would say. Um, but after letting that digest in me, I thought, you know what? That show may be a perfect show for me to put on my channel, kind of goes along the lines of what I've been doing so far. So far, anyways, horror and science fiction. Um, yeah, because those are enormous elements to that show, Stranger Things. So I thought, why don't I've got Netflix, sit down, rewatch them, and do a review of each show to Stranger Things. I know it's a 10-year-old show now when it started, but hey, that's me. Um, some of the stuff is over 40 years old that I've done, so whatever. And maybe some people out there want to watch the show again and go through it again, like I'm doing. So now, the first time I saw it, I think it was somebody I worked with suggested it, watching the show. So I did that, and I think I watched the first season in like a week. Um, you know, I would have been on like the afternoon shift. Sorry about the lighting; it's really terrible in here. But watch a show before work, or maybe take a day off. And if it was a weekend, I'd watch a couple, something like that. But I think I watched it in about a week, and I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was quite good. And thought that certain people like myself should watch it that are right into horror, science fiction, and the 80s. Now, for me, with this show, um, to let you know about myself and how I'm watching this, it may be different than some other people. But I generally come from two different avenues, not all the time, but these are the kind of big ones off the top of my head. One would be the references. This is just filled to the brim with references to other films, generally from the 70s and 80s, a lot from the 80s. And not just because it's something that I love, that it's referencing, that doesn't mean it's a good reference. Because there's some good references here for sure. There are some references that I will point out that maybe some people didn't catch on. One in particular in season five. And like there's going to be some that I'm not going to mention because I don't really feel like mentioning every single reference that this show does. But sorry, I will mention some. And some of them are clunky or don't come off so well to me. But that's one avenue. And the other avenue is from the writing aspect. Now, to let you know, I have written some screenplays. Certainly, none of them have been turned into movies or shows or anything like that. So I'm not going to suggest that I would be able to do a better job than what has been done here on the writing aspect of it. But that's how I look at it, or how I would have done things differently. Now, in the first season, there may not be a whole lot of that going on, but um, definitely there'll be some points during the show where I am going to say, hey, that's what I would have done, or maybe you shouldn't have done that. Um, stuff like that. Yeah, because for myself, as well, I've been writing since I've been 11 to actually writing long stories and stuff like that. And I've always loved it, and I've grown in my writing and grown in how to love the story and really try and recognize the audience when writing, or everything I've written at the time I'm writing it. Maybe not so much later, because as I've said, I have grown in writing. There are things that I would really like to watch. So it's almost like myself is the audience. Um, or I understand the audience because it would be myself, but um, yeah, that's what I would write because I've never been a writer for hire or something like that. Now, since the end of the show, I've talked to people, generally that I work with or in my family, um, who have gone through and watched the entire show. Um, and people that got through 2 seasons. Some people got through three. Some people only got through one. Um, and just speaking of a show running its course, absolutely, you're going to have some casualties along the way, or people that tune out or move on to other things. I reasons why people stop watching or the length of time between the seasons. Um, Season two was a tough one, which I agree with. It was a tough haul for me as well. But after watching that, they just didn't feel like investing any more time in the show. Or after that, in season three, it just didn't seem to hit that same level as season one, so they stopped watching. Now, I have heard from people that will have watched the entire show that it was good. Yeah, the last season was good. It was at that level that they were expecting from Stranger Things. So it's interesting that there's a really mixed bag on opinions on the final season. But I would also say as well, I've really enjoyed watching this go with my wife. I introduced my wife to this show. I had seen it, and it was with her that I saw it the second time. That's season one, and it's great because I think my wife loves this show and loves it more than I do. Yeah, I think she definitely does, and really enjoyed watching it. And that's that. She's had fun watching Stranger Things. Now, I'm an 80s kid as well. I was born in 1980, so I lived through the 80s. So that's definitely a big thing with this show I like as well, is that nostalgic view. And hey, if um, I've watched any of my other videos, you would notice, hey, they're generally older films. Not saying they don't make good films now, but it's just sort of that nostalgia of watching something that nobody talks about anymore. I like to look at some of that stuff. But in this show has definitely got 80s hair, 80s style, um, 80s music, and 80s movies um, all throughout it. And there's even some actors that are from the 80s as well. They were in some big stuff from the 80s. And a final thing before I get into this first show. Um, Characters. What characters do I like after watching the entire thing? Um, I pick one male, one female. How about I go with that? The female, and it's also a character that I've enjoyed the whole time. Or that arc is great enough. The female would be Elle. I think she's the engine for the show. Is Elle. Great character. And the male character would be Steve, the Hare, Harrington. Although he was a complete douchebag in the first season, it's his character arc where it took a surprising turn and he became a character or a guy I could sit down hang with and have a beer with. Um, he seemed to be a character that I really liked. So yeah, there's a couple right there, and who knows, maybe while watching this again, my opinions may change. I don't know. But here we go. Stranger Things, season one, episode one, The Vanishing of Will Byers. So this show was created by the Duffer brothers. So that's Matt Duffer and Ross Duffer. They also did the TV show Wayward Pines, and I think that's on Disney. Never seen that, but that's for any Wayward Pines fans out there. But the Duffer brothers, they also directed this first show as well. And it was written by the Duffer brothers as well as Jesse Nixon Lopez. And she was, I think, a staff writer, if I'm not mistaken. And she was involved in the show in the first two seasons as a writer as well. It's Jesse Nixon Lopez. So here we go. I'm going to jump into the story, talk about things I like, and talk about characters along the way as well. So it is November the 6th, 1983, in Hawkins, Indiana, which is where the story takes place for story or season one. I'm sorry, anyways. Um, now, I had to sit down on the computer and look at this date. What was big about this date? So I looked it up. Big things that happened. Hairstylist Vidal Sassoon was married, I think for the second time. John Hume, I think he's the lead singer of the group Evermore. He was born on this date. And the number one song in the US was All Night Long by Lionel Richie. So nothing that really connects to this show at all. I just wanted to get that out there for anybody who really cares. Moving along. So, the first thing I'll say when getting into the first season here, this first show was I forgot how well this show was made right out of the chute. Forgot that. Not saying it's not well made in the end, but it's got a different vibe going in the beginning. Um, this show always had high, marvelous, high production value. Um, and you can tell there's a boatload of money behind it, that being Netflix. But by the final season, it does not play out like the first season does. Not really. There is a lot of mystery, danger, suspense being played out right in the first scene. And I didn't really quite get that in the final season. That's just the season that's fresh in my mind. Um, but I do love the opening scene here at the Hawkins National Lab, Department of Energy, where all of this comes out as we see the scientists, all those things I mentioned, the um, mystery, danger, suspense. Um, he's running to an elevator and all the lights are flickering, giving a nice, creepy vibe, almost like the lighting in here. Once again, I do apologize. Um, and I didn't really feel that in the last season, as I said. And of course, once he gets in there and I think starts punching on the buttons to the door to close to get where he's going to. Something above him grabs him and pulls him upward, setting the show up right there. We then have the introduction to the four male leads. First, we have Mike, played by Finn Wolfhard. Um, he was also in a couple of It movies, a couple of Ghostbuster movies. Um, Personally, with the Ghostbusters thing, that was so much like this show. They even dress up as the Ghostbusters in season two, where it was kind of okay. Like I thought too much of Stranger Things when watching Ghostbusters. Unfortunately, that's maybe just me. But anyways, there's also Lucas, played by Caleb McLaughlin. Dustin, played by Gaten Matarazzo, sorry, and Will, played by Noah Schnapp. And I forgot about, and I'm gonna find out when this ends, but the the bantering between Lucas and Dustin, I forgot about it. And there's a reason why it works so well because most of the time there's three of them because there's a disappearance of Will Byers, the final guy there. So there's really three of them, so it works well, the bantering between those two, and I really enjoyed it. Now for this introduction with these four characters, this to me is straight out of Steven Spielberg's E.T. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I admit it. I think I would probably love it. But I've never played it. Growing up, I read fighting fantasy novels, which you would be a character, and all you need is a pencil, paper, and some dice, and you read along as an adventurer and go on these quests, that kind of thing. I really got into those. They were just novels or books, but I never got into the Dungeons and Dragons. But anyways, because of that, I feel I would get along with this group very well. Because of that strong fantasy vibe and love that they have, that I have as well. And they just happen to have one of the greatest horror films of all time, a poster of it, dead set, center, behind the table, John Carpenter's The Thing. They could play Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if there was a TV down there. They would have probably been pretty rich if they had a VCR at that time. I'm thinking, maybe I'm wrong. We didn't have one in that year, but maybe I could be watching the thing on beta or VHS or something like that down there. Very cool. And I love how nerdy it all plays out too. Very nerdy. Great stuff. To go along with the that 80s nerd vibe that was going on in other films where the nerds were taking center stage, were becoming the heroes. Um, in films like Ghostbusters, totally Raymond Stantz and Egon Spangler, those guys are nerds. Revenge of the Nerds, although that was a comedy, yeah, that a whole bunch of nerds taking center stage there. So it was a big thing in the 80s, the nerds getting the last laugh in some of these films. So now there are two main stories going on in this first show. First, we have Will. His buddy is playing D&D. Will, at the end of the campaign, he's killed off by a demigorgon, giving us a nice foreshadowing of what's going to happen to Will here. So after the game, Will is on his way home. When he gets home, there's no one there. Uh-oh. After a nice scene of Will being terrified and trying to hide from this beast or the shadow of this beast he's seen, um, he's taken. And now Will has disappeared right from his own home. In the morning, his mother, played by Winona Ryder, staying with the 80s. I remember her from Beetlejuice. I think that's the first thing I ever remember her from. Great film, as well as Heathers. I saw that recently. Not bad. Kind of weird. Not bad. That was like 89, that one, I think. And Will's brother, Jonathan, played by Charlie Heaton. Notice that Will's not there. Uh-oh. You can scream bad parenting, but remember this was 1983. Okay, so that's a long time ago. And she was working, and Jonathan was supposed to be home, but he figured because he's off at Mike's playing some Dungeons and Dragons, and I think he stated he figured he was going to stay the night over there. He went to work himself, so there was nobody home. And I look at that as a maybe more of a nod of reality of 1983. I don't know. Um, but yeah, problematic as Will is gone. So now Joyce is no longer with the father of the kids. His name is Lonnie, and he's really a dickhole of a character because his memory serves, he never really shows up in the show. I don't remember. Let me know if I'm wrong. Um, if I am, just put her in the comments. I'll get to it. But I don't think he does show up. Um, but guess what? Some people are like that. They really don't care. and that's their own offspring. Terrible. So Joyce goes to the police station in a scene I really like as she's talking with the sheriff of Hawkins, sorry, Jim Hopper, played by David Harbour. He was in the newest Hellboy as well, about her missing son, and how she needs to find him. Um, Now, this Hopper character I found was very good in the beginning. And from this standpoint, may become very pig-headed later, in my opinion. Um, very stubborn or very controlling. Um, but anyways, I thought he was really good in this first season. We'll see how that goes out for me. Um, he's a drunk. He takes pills and washes it down with Schlitz in the morning. Not a good combination, I would add. Um, and you can tell, he's carrying some deep, dark pain that's talked about that his daughter has died. Okay, all right. Now, the other story involves this young girl with a shaved head and number 11 tattooed to her arm. She's in a hospital gown, and we come to learn she has escaped from this lab that was at the beginning of the show in Hawkins. We witness her skills as she's able to turn a fan off with her mind, which is cool. This skill immediately, it kind of went in three ways. I was like, is that like Carrie, or is that like Star Wars? Is that like maybe even like, are we going to get into like The Shining, even maybe a little here or something? Um, but anyways, she's got these powers with the mind. Um, and it works in a way. It definitely works in a way with this character for sure. And in further videos, I hope to show why or get into details as to why. But right now, we just know she can control things with her mind. And it's not a number of things that are shown, it's just that one scene in particular is like, okay, all right, she's able to do something here. So now we have Dr. Martin Brenner, played by Matthew Modine. Still going with the 80s. He was in Stanley Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket, as well as Married to the Mob, and of course the classic Private School. Okay. But he's on her heels and trying to get her. So he seems to be in control of this group of people going out to get this girl. In one scene, Agent Connie Fraser, played by Catherine Dyer, shows up to this restaurant as Benny Hammond, played by Chris Sullivan, had called about this girl he found in the kitchen eating food, so he fed her, um, and then called this number. I think it was in the paper. Um, this agent walks into the restaurant, and then she shoots Benny Hammond dead, cold blooded, right there. For some reason, I thought that was a bad move. Like seeing that right away, because personally, the girl's right there seeing that happen, so she's gonna just gonna bolt, right? And that's exactly what happens. Um, And then later, when you know what else she can do, that becomes the bigger problem of the two. What she can actually do, um, it seems really silly that you would like this tactic would work against her in really any way, and it doesn't. Um, but anyway, she gets away from them, and at the end of the first show, the three buddies looking for Will in the pouring rain stumble across this girl and find her. I think they're in the woods, and that's the end of the first show. So, yeah, to go along with that, there's definitely some other characters and other things to talk about here as well. Um, within the first show, we are given a nice long pre-credit sequence, and once it comes to the credits, it's like the same thing through the whole entire show. They don't change that up, which is cool. It's got some very nice, awesome 80s music by Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein. Really adds to the feeling and the setting of the film. And you can almost say it's got a very John Carpenter like style or feel to the music. And I love John Carpenter's music in his films. It really adds to his films. Um, so things I picked up in the early goings here. The Demigorgons are able to control electronics or this mysterious beast, as in they're able to control the lights. It seems like either them or it might be Will are calling on the phone and they talk to Joyce. Um, and these things are also able to unlock doors that are locked. So it's almost like they have a very L like power themselves, that they're able to control things without moving it with their arms. Um, so yeah. So other characters we're going to talk about. So we got Nancy, played by Natalia Dyer. She's Mike's older sister. Um, I think she is a brain, definitely, and a good kid. She takes her education seriously, right? Um, but she definitely doesn't want to hang with her younger brothers, well, her younger brother, but or his friends. And anyway, um, and she seems to be getting to know this guy named Steve. As I said, he's a douchebag. Um, he just wants to get laid, and right now he just wants to get into Nancy's underpants right now in this first show, and I think this whole entire first season. Um, his moves are sleazy. And with Nancy, who seems to be smart, they are sometimes somehow working. Maybe it is the hair. Um, you can tell he doesn't spend a lot of time doing anything brainy. That's not his strength or, well, what he puts time into. It's his hair that he puts his time into, I think. Not that he's stupid, he just doesn't spend time using his brain, right? Um, I could never see him playing Dungeons and Dragons, for example. That would not be what he would be doing on any night of the week, or studying for a test. Right, Nancy? It is cool that the two do make out while cranking Toto, though. That's very cool. Toto, love that band. It's very cool. Um, there's also Nancy and Mike's mom and dad. So the mom is played by Cara Biono, and she was in other shows like The Sopranos and Mad Men. And Joe Crest, I think I pronounced that right. Um, he's a very like distant father, I would say. He's very like, I don't really care what's going on as long as you're not using bad language. Um, and he does that through the whole show, so that doesn't really change until, yeah, maybe in season 5 he steps up, but he's a distant father, I would say. Anyways, and then there's a younger sister, Holly, played by I forgot about this, twins, Tinsley and Aniston Price. Both of twin sisters play this one character through the show. And then there's a couple of cops. There's Powell, played by Rob Morgan, and Callahan, played by John Reynolds. And just to let you know, in the 80s, there was a cop named Dirty Harry Callahan, um, played by Clint Eastwood. I think 3 of the Dirty Harry movies were in the 80s. But this cop is like the exact opposite of Dirty Harry, so it's maybe a joke if it's there and mistake. There's no way you would make that mistake by naming a cop Callahan, set in the 80s. So it's kind of a good joke. He's not exactly Dirty Harry. Um, so there you have it. And then there's Barb. And you would remember Barb if you've seen the first season. She's Nancy's best friend. She looks very 80s, played by Shannon Purser. So there you have it. That is the first go of Stranger Things. And I give it a big thumbs up. I think that's a great setup for this show right there. Um, in this first show. So my next video, I'll come back and do the second episode of Stranger Things, and that's it. So if you want to put in the comments your favorite season, go ahead and do so. Um, I'm not sure yet. I think I really think season one might be one of my favorite seasons, but um, hey, by the end of it, I might do a video ranking the seasons. But anyways, there we have it. So yeah, have yourself an excellent night.